You want to start the podcast?
Yeah, let's do that.
No, I mean, do you want
No, let's go ahead.
Welcome to our podcast. This is Creatures of the Night.
Hi.
I'm Wendy.
And I'm Chris.
Hi. Would you like to be soulmates and travel to dark places together?
I love dark places and traveling together.
Cool.
I just don't like traveling alone. I hate that shit. Going to dark places alone sucks. Let's not ever do that.
Well, I was telling you about maybe before we started recording this, maybe as we were recording this. I don't know how this shit's going to get edited. But what I was going to tell you is I was watching TV with my youngest, as we love to do. And, you don't play with your kids anymore, especially when they're like 12. What are you supposed to do?
What do you do with the 12-year-old?
This kid only likes Nerf guns to begin with. I mean, he does like to go out, and he can be very helpful around the house. You can get him involved really easy by making running errands type shit sound fun to him. And he's like, sure. I think he just likes adulting a little.
Sold. Let's trade. I want him Nerf guns and fun shit around the house. Come on, let's do this.
It is kind of funny how easy you can be like, hey, come here and help me make lunches. Come on, what do you want for lunch? And then real quick, at first he's like, oh, Mom. And then he's like, and you're like, what do you think we should give your brother for lunch? He's like, I don't know. He likes these kind of chips and he likes these. So I was like, sweet, you make these sandwiches. I got to check my Instagram. No, I'm just playing. We do it together, but we were watching TV together too. And we started watching this, the Tennessee Wraith Chasers.
Oh, yeah, your boys. I mentioned them earlier.
Yeah, well, so I've heard of them for a long time. We both have. And they're from our neck of the woods, and we've heard about them for a long time. They run around with Chad Moore. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Morin?
I think you're right.
The Ghost Hunters
guy.
Weekend, I think is what it's called. They run around a lot together, and we follow them on social media.
I was just checking my Instagram so I could check his name, because he does. He likes a lot of our stuff too. Chad Morin.
Oh,
he
yeah.
liked my stuff.
Yeah, which I totally appreciate.
Me too. Love that.
Because I like what he's doing out there in the world. But the Tennessee Wraith Chasers, I never watched their show before. And I guess now that it's readily available on the Travel Channel, I don't know if they've always been on the Travel Channel. I swear to God, it just became real to me. And I am always on the fucking Travel Channel. So now it's like, oh, wow, they have a show? Didn't know it. So I was watching, but I started watching. I sent you. Oh, I thought you were going for your phone. You were going for your wine. I was going to explain what I sent you. I sent you a photo, which we can't share because it's their photo. Oh. You're just going to have to go to the Tennessee Wraith Chasers. Aww. But I had to share this with you because I saw it on social media, and I thought of how definitely back in the day, and probably even now, when we take pictures together, you're always making like such cool faces and serious or funny, and I am just smiling like a fucking dork in the background. And so there's this picture on the Tennessee Wraith Chasers page. It's labeled the Queen Mary, I don't know, and it looks like it's some kind of promotional deal, and there's these two dudes, I don't know their names. I think one of them's Porter.
Yeah.
Oh, it says it at the top. Duh. Anyways, one is just some cheese smiling it. I mean, like, he's the happiest person in the world, and the other one is seriously pissed off at something. I mean, like, they couldn't be two of the most different facial expressions ever.
That's so funny.
But anyways, I thought that was funny. But we were watching the show, or we picked the show to watch because it was the Bell Witch of Adams, Tennessee. And my youngest comes in, and they were telling that what happened to the guy that tried to kill, now I've totally forgot his name. I think it's John. John Porter tried to kill the Bell Witch by shoving her in a fireplace. Oh. This doesn't seem realistic at all. How do you get a person and then shove them down into a fireplace without you yourself having to bury your face in the fireplace?
Hansel and Gretel. I mean, have you heard that story before? I mean,
the kids are little. I mean, this witch had to have been tiny.
But they're feisty. Oh, that's... I mean, I'm a witch. I'm feisty, too. You ain't getting my ass. I mean, unless you got me fucking drunk as all get out. I'm not going to be like, let's poke around in the fireplace. I'm going to be like, get the fucking fire away from me. It's too hot.
Right. She had to have been unconscious is what I was thinking. But more so of the story of what they told is that later John reporter died, and they found like a medicine bottle near his body that they believed to be poison. So they fed it to a dog and to a cat. And yes, they both died. It was poison. And I'm like, what the why did they feed it to the animals? It's like, that's, me and my youngest are like, what? Why did they have to do that? My youngest goes, why'd they feed it to a dog and a cat? And I was like, why are they feeding it to animals at all? How rude.
People from the 1700s just straight up didn't fucking care.
Well, then here you go. This is my youngest. Well, Mom, back then, they didn't have a lot of medical science. This was the only way they could test it. You know, this is back when witches existed. And I look at him.
Back then.
Exactly. I look at him and go, witches exist today. What is wrong with you? I've told you that a dozen times. And he's like, I mean old witches, Mom.
Like the witch from Dorothy, you know, the green face flying around on a broomstick witch, Mom. Come on.
I guess only good witches exist now. Evil witches existed then in his mind. I'm not really sure what he was getting at. I think they forget, cute. You know, this room in my house full of oils and herbs and candles or something.
It's normal to him. I love the innocence, though. It's so sweet because he's just assuming that back then this was the only possible way that they could determine whether it was a witch or not. Let's feed this poisonous shit to our animal, our sweet, loving, family protecting German Shepherd or whatever. Let's see if it turns him into a witch. Oh, he's dead. So now we ain't got nobody here to protect us.
It was so funny to hear it from him. And you're right. I think he thinks like that's a totally, like that kind of witch is totally different from current types of witches, which later on the show, there was somebody that helped explain the difference or whatever between the Bell Witch and like witches today or whatever. Because she herself was a witch. But it's so sweet how he doesn't get the difference in my mind. I think I'm doing something right in parenting in that case.
I think that's cute. That's very sweet. It's that innocence that I was just referring to. I love it.
That or he doesn't realize I'm being serious, that I might be a witch. So,
or that.
They might just think, Mom's so silly.
Your kid's like, what, Mom's bullshit? Whatever. I did want to tell you about this, speaking of Tennessee Wraith Chasers, because they've been to Salem, Massachusetts. I went to Salem and I found a new witch store for us. Brand spanking new. Well, it was new to me. It might have been there for a year. I only ever usually go to Omen and to Hex. I'm like tunnel visioned to those stores, but there's a whole new witch store in town, Wendy, and it has some wild shit. All of those bones I was looking for when we were in New Orleans.
They have them?
They have them.
What's it called?
Shit, I don't know. Coven?
What?
I didn't even get a card. I didn't even buy anything. I was so mesmerized by everything in the store that, okay, well, you couldn't take pictures. Like, they're like real freaks. Yeah. Don't pull out your phone at all. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of weirded out. Like, that's one of those situations where now I have to pull out my phone. And I have like a twitch. Like, I'm like, can I pull it out now? Can I? They had snake bones, snake skin. They had deer antlers, goat horns. They had all kinds of bones from all kinds of animals. They had everything that we were looking for. And it was actually pretty reasonable. I thought those kind of bones were a little cheap for being what they were. You know, I wanted to buy one of everything, but then I also wanted to come home and be like, okay, let's read up on what I actually need before I just start buying bones.
Before you just have a collection of bones.
I get pulled over on the way home. Ma'am, what is in your back seat?
What have you been doing? Oh, I just came from Salem. Don't worry.
Right. Officer, please. It's on Instagram. I was just in Salem. Come on. So I'm circling around the store, and I did circles. Like, I went from one end to the other, to the other, to the other. Like, this woman was watching me like I was a fucking yo-yo. And while I was doing that, these people were just, like, opening their wallets. I heard this one sale was $82. The next sale was $131. And I'm like, you get these books on Amazon. I mean, I'm just saying. Yeah. But the other stuff, you can't find that on Amazon. I was pretty impressed. So, another new place to take you to when you come back. I thought it was a pretty neat store.
Most definitely. Well, what kind of inspired my store story is how much I love to travel. I think we both have that kind of travel bug to us, but it's not just that we like want to go to these exotic places or something that's super exciting. I mean, we love to go anywhere and to see the way that other people live or to experience their cultures or whatever. So like to go to Salem and just to see these all these kind of shops and the stuff that's in them, just walking along those streets and kind of getting a glimpse of what it used to look like in the past, and then just the types of things. We don't have that kind of stuff out here. We have a couple of shops that are like that, but it's not to that abundance. I mean, I just love seeing that, how it's different other places. So I've been watching all this week a lot of Expedition Unknown with your boyfriend, John Gates. John Gates. I just renamed him there. His name is Josh. I really like that name, by the way, Josh, too. But anyways, off of the love of the name Joshua and our love for Josh Gates. But what he had said in one of his episodes of Expedition Unknown is that that's his favorite part of his job, is going places and experiencing the different cultures. And in that moment, I was so fucking jealous of him. I was like, why did I not get an archaeology degree?
I know.
Like, why didn't some guidance counselor come to me and be like, Wendy, you're a wandering soul. You never like to sit still. This is the kind of life that you would enjoy. Nobody told me that. They said, be fucking practical and get a job.
Me too.
A 9 to 5 and sit at a desk. But with this podcast, we are fortunate enough to take the time to kind of explore little tidbits, little tiny locations locked away in different areas and all over the world, really.
We can go anywhere.
And we never have to leave our desks to do it. So that's
like reading Rainbow. Take a look. It's in a book.
This will not be a singing podcast.
That is the second time I sang that song today.
That's weird. So I like to also look at who is downloading our podcast, like what states or countries the people that are downloading our podcast live in. And yes, you heard me right. I said countries, because we are fucking international podcast stars, if you didn't know.
Oh my gosh. We're international.
We're international. So first of all, we of course have my Canadian crew, my family up in Canada. Big shout out to the Canada Schultzes, our big supporters, and we appreciate them.
Love the Canada Schultzes.
But not just Canada is a fan of our show. Get this. There's someone in Sweden that has tuned into our show. And I've probably told you this before, but we have not shared this with other people. And how excited I was when I saw that. I mean, I was excited and intimidated at the same time. I mean, I'm a little intimidated by somebody from Europe being interested in our show and listening to us, because Sweden itself, along with most of Europe, it has a super long history. It's been inhabited since back before Common Era time. And so for people that don't know that new Common Era thing, like the BC times, it's been inhabited for that long. Mm-hmm. And the country itself of Sweden was founded in the 14th century.
What?
Yeah.
In the 14th century?
Yeah. So there's a lot of history that this land has experienced, and you can't imagine what kind of spiritual activity that might be fueling in their areas. They've got fucking castles, they've got old churches, they have old manors. I mean, there has to be paranormal activity happening in these places.
I think I should move to Sweden. I don't know why I'm here in the States. That place sounds awesome. They speak English there, right? Most European places do, right? I mean,
I think a lot of them learn English, but I'll tell you in just a second that it was not easy to necessarily find this information in English. So,
So you're going to read the whole podcast in Swedish? I don't know how I'll react to it. I'll just have to be like, yes.
Wouldn't that be hilarious? You know I can't pronounce shit. I'm not going to do that. But So it's super kind of crazy to think that this person, our persons in Sweden, is looking to us, two silly chicks from the States, to tell them ghost stories.
Yeah, I bet we are silly too. I mean, hey, you know what? Maybe they are interested in the shit that's happening in the United States. I mean, if you're in Sweden, who knows? Maybe they're just like, it's also fascinating to them as much as their area to us.
It got me wondering. I was like, we've seen, other like big shows go over into Europe, and they had the whole Ghost Hunters International and stuff. But I was like, I don't know any like haunted places in Sweden, but there must be. And so I started to Google it. I was like, what's their most haunted place? What's their Velisca axe murderer house over there? What do they got going on?
I don't know if I want to know.
Well, I fucking found it.
Oh, man.
And this place is serious.
Oh, boy.
So, like I said, bear with me. I'm not going to pronounce this stuff correctly. And a lot of the stuff that I found was in Swedish and even the videos. But thanks to Google Translate and to these two paranormal groups, they're the ones I leaned on the most. They're called Laxton, if I'm saying that right. It's Laxton, Ghost Sweden, and Nordic, Ghost Hunting. They posted some information in English, and then they had subtitles. Thank you so much. They had subtitles in their videos. So because of them, I got to find this gem of a paranormal hotbed. And I also kind of felt pretty fancy, like watching a documentary with subtitles and stuff. I was like, look at me watching a foreign documentary.
Does that not drive? Okay, that is fancy and all, but does that not drive you insane that you have to read the whole thing? Like, I don't even watch the movie. I'm just reading it.
So it was hard, and I won't admit to you how many times I paused it to catch up on the reading, because that's embarrassing. But I watched 2 seasons of Narco on Netflix, so I got used to fucking reading subtitles to get through a show.
All right.
Let's go back to Sweden. Can only handle so many dialects at once.
Yes.
So I'm going to tell you the story of a little farming house that is on the rolling hills of Sweden that is considered to be the most haunted house in Sweden and maybe even the world.
Shit.
It is named Frammegarden. So it is actually spelt Framme and then garden. Garden. So if you want to look it up.
Okay.
But it is pronounced Frammegarden. Frammegarden is in Skillingmark. So it is spelt exactly like that. Skillingmark, but it has an S in front of it.
They just drop off that S.
Yeah.
It's
We're
gone.
just Skillingmark. It's in Skillingmark. You just say it really fast and fancy, then it. And
I actually work with someone who speaks Swedish.
Oh my God, could he come read this for me then? Because the rest of these were all put into Google search, and then my computer read it to me. My computer is American, I believe.
Right. So he's giving you the American version of the Swedish word.
It is reading them phonetically. So those were the only 2 that were said in those documentaries that I watched.
Okay.
So for me to actually get how a Swedish person would pronounce it, those were the only 2 words. From here on out, you are getting the phonetic sound of these words. So it is probably wrong.
Well, you know what? Our friend from Sweden can email us or Instagram us and help us out with these pronunciations.
Yes, please.
That would be awesome.
Because I feel really bad about it, but I could not figure out a way to get to hear it correctly. Yeah, the proper pronunciation. So I'm killing the story by talking too much about how to pronounce things. Who gives a fuck? Nobody cares about spelling or pronunciation. So this super haunted house called Frammegarden is in Skillingmark, which is also in the Värmland province of Sweden. The house was built sometime during the 1700s. It was home to many different families over its 300-year history.
Wow.
The last owner gifted the property to a local preservation society, which allows local schools and other groups to come and tour the home to get a glimpse into the life of farmers of that area in that time. It's decorated with a lot of period type furniture.
Ooh, cool.
And it has accessories in it like old clothing and whatnot.
Hair curling irons by any chance? That's creepy.
I don't know. I didn't point those out, but yeah. No torture curling irons in there. They hold a summer celebration every year, though, on the grounds. So wherever in Sweden during their summer, then we could go and check out.
Yes, ma'am.
It's just an adorable little place to go for like a little country picnic in the hills of Sweden.
I bet it's beautiful.
Right? Wrong. It's evil.
Oh shit! I like it even more. I was like, I can't wait to Instagram these beautiful pictures of Sweden. You're like, it's evil.
No, it is a cute little farmhouse in Sweden and everything. And parts of it seem like just a regular haunting, but then there's a darker side too. Okay. So as more and more people visited the location, stories began to come about that unexplainable activity was happening. People were hearing sounds in the house or having eerie feelings. There were objects moving on their own. And all inside of the house and kind of in the later part of the day, like in the evening or whatnot. So, of course,
weird.
Paranormal investigators began to flock to the area to see what the fuck was going on. What's going on in this house? What's causing it? Who is it?
Hold on a second. Are we still talking the 1700s or is that just when the house was built?
Nope. 1950s.
Oh, okay.
The 1950s is when, I don't know if it's like when the last owner passed away and they started opening the house up to people, and that's when they discovered that the activity was happening. What I found, it just says the house became a popular spot for investigators since the 1950s. So a long time, though.
Okay.
This has been going on for over 50 years, over 60 years, really. And so this is all the stuff that they uncovered.
Okay.
Most of the activity happens at night. The house is believed to be haunted by the spirit of two very young girls or children. It's believed that they are the daughters of a previous owner, a farmer, who locked his children in the attic and refused to feed them until they starved to death and froze to death as well, because it gets pretty fucking cold there. And they were only 4 and 2 years old. Did you just hear me?
Horrible.
I said 2 years old.
That's really sad.
This kid can't even know what's going on.
Why even have the kid if you're going to just lock him up and torture him like that? That doesn't make any fucking sense to me whatsoever.
Doesn't make any sense. And so then they say that once they passed away in the attic, he buried their bodies down in the cellar.
Whoa.
They have like a root cellar, like a dirt cellar, and he buried them down there.
Damn.
The cellar is said to house a demon. Don't know if it's because...
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, hold on a second. I hope to God that if that shit ever happens to me in any of my future lives, I come back as a fucking demon and haunt that motherfucker too. I mean, come on. That's only righteous, I mean, shit.
It's only fair.
Right. That's how I feel.
Well, you know how they say that demons, they try to appear as children because you'll be like more open to kind of interacting with them because you're like, oh, this poor little child or whatever.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
What if this is a really poor little child that died and everybody's interpreting it as a demon because they're like, nope, that's a demon. Why would a child be down here in the cellar just in the dark? That's not.
Because that motherfucker starved them in the attic and then buried their beautiful little child selves in the cellar. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a horrible, horrible story.
So somebody said a demon. Some people just say they get a really bad feeling down in the cellar area. And it's not really entirely clear if it has to do with the murders of the children or if it is something else.
Just wondering, I know where you're going with that, but,
do you?
I have a feeling, I'm not going to say anything, but when, if the man was that hateful to those two children, if the feeling that they're having in the basement might be the father instead of the children.
Whatever energy he was putting off at the time and stuff. Yeah.
That's exactly what I was getting at. What is that? Is that a poltergeist? Is that how that happens? I just did a whole podcast on it and I should have looked into it. But when people have the ability to project negative energies into the atmosphere because of how they feel
at the time. I think a poltergeist is just defined as a haunting that it can move objects. So it's not entirely clear if the murders of the little girls are what's causing the bad energy down in the cellar or if it's something else.
Oh.
The home was said to also be a place at one time where terminally ill people would travel travel to spend their last moments, dying in this one bedroom of the house.
It's a hospice.
But some reason they were drawn to this place to come here. They stayed in this one bedroom and they passed away on this bed. And this whole bedroom is right above the cellar.
That's sick.
So that's weird.
There's a lot of oppressive energies that are going into that place, right? I mean, if people are drawn to die.
In concentrated area too. I'd be interested to know how the attic is over.
Yeah.
I think it's not though. From watching the people move through the house, I feel like it would be on the other side of the house.
Do you feel like maybe this guy was affected by whatever was going on in the house and he locked the children in the attic to try and keep them away from it?
I mean, like, who does that to children? So what if something was affecting him as well?
Right. I hope. Mm-hmm. Hope he wasn't just a sick bastard.
That we always hope that there isn't just straight up monsters in the world, that they have something else that's compelling them to be such an asshole.
Right.
But so Tony Martinson, that's phonetically spelled out. He's Swedish. That may not be how you say his last name, but I'm sure his first name is Tony. He's with the Laxton Go Sweden.
Cool.
And he called that whole drawn to the location to die type thing, he called this house a death bin.
Whoa.
And he said the bed that everybody passed away in, they call it the death bed because it's still in the fucking house.
I was just going to say, there's no way.
They claim that bed in the house, which looks like an old-timey wood bench bed, is the actual bed that people came there and would just stay there until they died.
Do you think that this has become like a portal somehow? I mean, who would want to, at this point, knowing that so many people have laid upon this bed and died in it? I mean, I hope to God that bed bugs don't exist out there.
Well, it looks like a very wooden bench, and it's got like a quilt thrown on it.
No mattress then.
It just looks like it has a quilt thrown on it. I mean, there has to be some kind of cushion going on, but that's how it looked to me and my American standards. It was a bench with a quilt thrown on it. And I was like, I would die laying in that thing too or whatever. That's so uncomfortable.
My back hurts just thinking about this shit.
But this is an old timey bed or whatever. So in the countryside of Sweden. So maybe it's just a typical thing. It's also, I'll have to give that disclaimer again. The information was in Swedish. So it was hard for me to get exactly, I don't know the name of this farmer that locked his children. I got names for the girls, but I also was seeing the same name as someone else later on. And I was like, wait. So I just left their names out because I was like, is that a common name or somebody mixing up stories? So
interesting.
I like to imagine the way I want to tell the story is that the house was just living as a normal house until the 1950s. And then people started coming in. And then now the investigators want to know why this is happening. So they're piecing it together with the evidence that they're getting, not so much historical records, because I couldn't find the historical records. So I'm pretending they don't exist because they don't exist to me. So anyway, Tony, though, I already told you that. He said it was a deathbed. And then I thought, man, that's creepy as fuck. Who would leave a bed in a house that a bunch of people had died in? We have stayed in places where somebody died in this spot, in this room, right next to your bed. And we just go to sleep there on these big cushy mattresses. You could go and investigate this place and you can lay on a bed where other people have died. Lay on a bench bed.
It's historical. Why necessarily would they get rid of it? It's a piece of the history. No matter how dark and macabre it might be, it's still a piece of that history. So that's why they're hanging on to it, right?
It is, but it's creepy to think that you can go there and spend the night and then sit right where on the actual piece of furniture that somebody had passed away in.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine the energy that it puts off?
Right.
So some of the claims that are reported at Frammegarden are sounds of footsteps, of course, common paranormal thing going on.
I love it, though. I love footsteps. That's my favorite. Next to full body apparitions, I'll take the footsteps.
Are pretty cool though, because you're like, I know that isn't me.
No, I'm not moving.
So there's a rocking chair that has been known to move. The attic door where the little girls passed away has opened on its own. People have seen children's faces in the loft area of the attic.
That's significant.
There's sounds of a piano playing, which there is a piano in the house, and not all the furniture of the house is original. Some of them they've brought in to show you period pieces. Like I said, the piano that is in the house, it is horribly out of tune. It is horrible and it doesn't work. I watched on the documentary. It sounds like shit.
And it's also perfect for a horror movie.
Exactly. But the EVPs of piano sounds that they're hearing, it's a piano.
Whoa.
It's a piano playing. It's a piano that sounds nice.
EVPs of the piano playing?
Yes. Yes, this wasn't stuff they heard with their own ears. It was playback on the recording that they were hearing piano noises, but they weren't hearing it. I don't think they were, at least. I don't recall. But it definitely was not this horrible piano in the house. It was the ghost of the piano when it was once a fabulous piano.
So these ghost hunters, they're recording this stuff. They don't hear it at the time that it's happening and they hear it later. That, to me, speaks in volumes, because that happens to us so many times. And I love that. That just puts me right in their shoes.
Yeah. Like when you were talking a couple of episodes ago about Iowa and a loud bang that we did not respond to. So when you're listening to this recorder months later, whatever, weeks later, day later, even reviewing your evidence, and you know that you did not hear this in real time because we are also not reacting to it.
Right, exactly.
So it's not just like, I don't remember that happening. It's also you can hear what's going on at the time, and neither one of us are being like, what's that noise, you know?
Right. A loud bang should startle somebody, as well as a piano playing where there is a piano nearby, but it's totally out of key or out of tone. But when it's playing and it sounds correct, versus if you went over there and played it and it doesn't, you would have to introduce phone app or something.
Yeah.
Something would have to play music. And I mean, paranormal investigators, that's not what they're there for.
No,
that's not what they're there for.
I think majority of paranormal investigators they're so into the moment of trying to watch and experience a true paranormal experience happening that a lot of them, none of the stuff I felt like I was watching, are they going in there with ideas to set up evidence, you know, or whatever. So these people seem to legit, both of them, both groups, the Laxton group and the Nordic group. And I trust that they were being sincere in what the evidence they were finding. But also there is clothing. There's clothing in the house just to show you like what people used to wear back in the day or whatever. That has moved on its own. People, just like somebody set up a static cam basically and then watched like this. There's no wind in the house and the piece of clothing is just moving as if somebody's playing with it or twirling underneath it or something like that. And of course they do bring in toys as trigger objects for the children. So there was a ball that moved a couple of times for the Laxton group and that was in the attic area. And then there's tons and tons of EVPs and they're using spirit boxes where they're getting responses. Wow. So it's said that a lot of people that go for overnight investigations actually can't even make it through the night, that sometime around midnight they fucking tap out. They can't handle it.
Hold on a second. Are we still talking about Velisca? Or are we talking? I just want to. There's so many similarities.
That's what I was thinking the whole time, but this one gets a little crazier.
Oh, okay.
So while a lot of the activity can be explained by the tragic, horrible events that have happened in the house with the murder of the children and then the just death of multiple people coming there that are ill and then they pass away, that stuff can kind of be explained by the footsteps and furniture moving and things like that. But some of the other darker activity is a little puzzling to like, why does it happen? What fuels the evil activity at Frammegarden? So maybe, just maybe, it has something to do with the fact that in the 17th century, this area and the grounds of Frammegarden were used as an execution ground for witches.
Oh, damn.
Frammegarden was the site where they burned the bodies of witches.
They burned the bodies of alleged witches.
Well, accused witches might be another way of saying it as well, because the witch trials of Sweden started in 1668.
No shit. Really?
What do you got back there?
I was checking the date for Salem, Massachusetts. It's like right behind me because I'm a weirdo.
What date? What is their date though? Because this should have happened before Salem. Though.
Yeah, it did. 1692.
There was something that I read that was like, this was like all inspiring basically for this shit that happened in
Wow.
Salem. So the witch trials of Sweden started in 1668 when the church came to believe that there was a giant struggle between good and evil going on, and that the witches were the tools of the devil at work.
Wow.
To save their souls, to save the witches' souls, of course, because that's all they wanted to do. All they need do is confess their sins and that they were witches. A popular way of getting them to confess was torture, of course, you know.
Shit. I mean, I'd confess to anything if you start fucking trying to torture me. I mean, just give me 1-ply toilet paper and no. What do you need me to say? I need Angel Soft, please. Dear Lord.
Well, I'm not sure that confessing was going to do you much good because you still had to be sentenced after that as well.
That sucks.
They also would use torture on witnesses to gain the story that they wanted to hear, basically, to go along with their beliefs that there was this power struggle going on between good and evil. Children of the accused and just children of the town were often witnesses in these trials.
Oh, that's terrible.
These children were like you. They were like, nope, any kind of negative torture, any ugly looks. They were like, hold up. You want a story? I'll tell you a story.
Right.
Apparently, they were trying to one up each other, and they were telling like crazy story after crazy story. They were fucking smart.
Oh.
The survival kicked in for these little creatures, and they were telling stories about the witches carrying them off on rides. I'm assuming broomsticks. I don't know. They didn't explain what the ride meant, but carrying them off on their rides to hold up Blackula. It is, I swear to God.
The Blackula?
So Google Speak pronounces it Blackula. And I was like, it's like Dracula, but Blackula. That can't. Right.
Is there a couple of A's in there? Like additional A's?
It's spelled Blakulla.
Okay.
It is the Nordic place of the devil. So that is not at all how you pronounce it. I'm sure it is not called Blackula, but that is how Google told it to me. Google is no better than your fucking GPS that always says the street wrong. So I apologize. I didn't find any Swedish person to say that to me, so I don't know. But it is the Nordic place of the devil. But it's not like hell because they didn't have hell in their stories. It was a place where the devil held large banquets and like parties and shit. And the witches were carrying these children off to this place. And before you knew it, all the children were like telling you everybody that was at these devil banquets or whatever. And now the whole town has been accused of being a witch and everybody's on trial.
Wow.
It just spread like wildfire all over Sweden.
That's insane. I've never heard of this Nordic place of the devil.
I know. That one was kind of cool. I hate that nobody else, I couldn't find a video that was saying it so that I would know how to pronounce it right. But I thought that's kind of cool because it specifically said it's not hell. It's what they believe where the devil lives. And I was like, I want to know more about this place.
Well, I wonder if I go up to the Swedish technician that I work with who doesn't know shit about me and just be like, hey, I'm going to put my phone up to your face.
Don't say Blackula.
I'm just going to, I need you to say in Swedish, the Nordic place of the devil. Go. And just have him say it.
Yeah. And then tell him to explain it to you because it sounds like a party with the devil. Not that I'm telling anybody I need to go to a party with the devil. I'm just saying. It sounds interesting and I'd like to know more about it is all. Curiosity, you know?
Yeah, it killed the cat. Be careful.
So, of course, to determine a witch, I know you have the witch test back there with the list of rules. So you'll already know this. But for other people, a common way of testing to whether or not a person was a witch, one of their popular tests was the water test. That is where they would tie them up and then throw them in a body of water. And if they drown, hey, they weren't a witch. They were actually just a good person, but they're dead.
That's fucked up.
So, all right. So at least they're going to heaven without any sins on their conscience there.
But shouldn't that weigh heavy on their minds? I mean, they just killed an innocent person. Yes, they're not a witch, and that's what they were trying to determine, whether or not this person was a witch or not with their silly test. What the fuck?
Yes. I wonder what the reaction of the crowd was after that person just drowned. Or they were
I bet it was like,
all like,
oh shit. Everyone's like, you saw that shit. You were here with me. You saw that. We were all in agreement, man. We all agreed. Okay, good. Yeah. Billy Bob. Hey, where the fuck is Billy going? Billy.
he feels bad.
We all have to agree that we all did this wrong shit together.
No, I think there was one powerful person in the crowd that would, as soon as it happened and they realized, oh, Sandy Lou, she died. Oh, I guess she wasn't a witch. This one powerful person that was really good at speaking turned to Sandy Lou's family and was immediately like, oh, bless you. Sandy Lou was a good Christian. Oh, everyone, Sandy Lou was a good Christian. She's going to heaven with Jesus now. Isn't that glorious? And everybody was like, yes, that's glorious, I guess. Did she just die? And then yes. And so they fed it to them like, no, she's going to this great place. It's wonderful. Don't worry. We sent her off to a better place. She's not here with us assholes anymore. So she must be happy, right? I mean, like, would you like to hang out with a bunch of people that just called you a fucking witch and tried to drown you? No. So Sandy Lou's in a better place anyways, even though not at the same time. Sandy Lou could have went down on a raft and escaped these assholes. I don't know. So the water test is a popular way of doing it. And then if you survive that test, or if you had a trial instead of a water test and they found you accused of sorcery, then you would be beheaded.
Oh, damn.
That was their popular method. You would be beheaded and then burned.
The fuck?
So Frammegarden was the place where they burned the bodies. They're already dead. They were beheaded. But it's where they took all the bodies and burned them. So they weren't actually alive anymore.
What's the point? What am I missing?
Oh, you got to be sure about these things. It's just like vampires. I mean, you don't just be like, whoop, I shot him in the head. We're done. No. You put a stake in the heart. You put concrete over that shit.
That's harsh.
Got to be sure. They could come back.
They were so scared of witches because they were, taking their brats away?
Yeah. Who cares? I got a night out with my hubby. Get rid of those kids.
I mean, behead that bitch and burn her body. Shit. I mean, wait a second.
They were babysitting for you and you have a problem with that? I mean,
maybe that's all witches were about back then. They're just like, ooh, this couple, they seem to be having some turmoil in their relationship. Let's alleviate this. Let's take their children, take that stress out of their lives. They can have a, date night. I'll bring them back eventually.
Yeah.
Or drown them. Whatever. I'm a witch.
Right. But even more so, they would behead them and then burn them at Frammegarden and all over the place. These witch trials lasted for 8 years.
Wow.
They were intense. And like I said, they stretched from... So here's where all the funny names come in that Google decided to tell me this is how you say it, and I believe it's wrong. So it stretched from the province of Boohisland.
Who?
Boohisland. So I went through and had Google tell me how to say it, and then I wrote in parentheses how I should pronounce it, and this is what I got. So I know I'm saying it wrong, but it's a province on the west coast and then over the province of Verlan, where Frammegarden is, and the province of Dalalar and Halsingland.
You're making this way too hard on yourself.
I know. I said, why do I have to say all these provinces?
Right.
I don't. Just say from the west coast to the east coast.
Right.
That's all I had to say.
Just go, yes, do that.
So it stretched from the west coast to the east coast and over the land where Frammegarden was. And the Toy Saker trials were probably the ones that suffered the most. That's just an area where it was the biggest. The witch trials began when 30 people were sentenced to death for witchcraft.
Oh my God.
But that was just the start of it. That was the worst hit area.
Wow.
But in total, 300 persons were accused of witchcraft.
How many people were left after that? Were there 2 people who got rid of them? Thank God. All them witches
They're just
gone.
Gonna take over the whole land. But there was also a couple of hundred more that were accused and convicted of sorcery, but they escaped execution because laws changed or people just decided not to carry out the executions, you know.
Damn.
So all of these people that were accused and executed, there was hundreds of people. They were accused of abducting children, like we said. What's the big deal?
I don't get it.
And taking them to this place of the devil, Blackula, and they were also accused of having intercourse with the devil.
Men and women? Or wait a second.
I'm pretty certain this is a bunch of chicks. But
I need to know.
I don't know. I mean, 300 people.
Wow.
Yeah, so that happened.
How many people?
And over 300 people were accused of it. 300 people were executed.
Over 300 people were accused of having intercourse with the devil in Sweden.
Yep. And 300 people were put to death for it.
Basically, everyone just went insane.
Bananas.
Yep.
In this country. Because it stretched from one side to the other, basically. They were going nuts. So there was a decline in people being accused and executions during the witch trials in 1676, following the execution of Malin Matter's daughter. That's as close as I can get to it being right. So this poor girl was burned alive.
Oh, Jesus.
So everybody else was being beheaded, but for some reason, they were like, let's get crazy. Let's burn her alive in a bonfire at the Capitol in Stockholm. And then I guess after that, that's why things declined and people weren't accusing people of witchcraft anymore because they were like, I'm done. I don't know how we can one up that experience.
Yeah.
Watching this poor soul be burned alive. Like, what fucking assholes. Now, there were some people accused afterwards of sorcery and even put to death. There was one chick, a badass chick, that was like, yeah, I did that shit. I threw her name away, but I know her first name was Anna, and I would have butchered her last name anyways. But she was accused of doing like some crazy shit, like sorcery on people's crops and then like making someone sick. And then when she was brought in, she was like, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I did that. I didn't like that fucker. And so then she was put to death. But so it did happen a little bit after this last execution in Stockholm, but it had really died off. It wasn't like the mainstream thing to do anymore.
Thank God.
But the punishment of witchcraft wasn't abolished until 1779.
Damn.
So finally in 1779, they were like, we got to stop this. Quit it. It's not a thing we should kill people over. So back to Frammegarden. During the Laxton Ghost Sweden's investigation, they received lots of EVPs that fit with the story about the little girls. I talked to you about how it makes sense. The little girls are there. There's other people that have died there. But the little girls, they got EVPs that said things like, Daddy's coming. I'm sorry. They got a female investigator that was with them. Her leg got grabbed. And the Nordic ghost hunting group, they also had a female investigator that got pinched on the leg. And this is like the lower leg, like on your calf, because they're little kids, you know?
Jeez.
They asked who was here and they got a response, the children. And this was all right in the area where the attic kind of is at. But the wildest shit that they got, the place that makes this a Velisca level place, is they were using this thing called an Echo Vox. It's like an app on a tablet, I think. They had a tablet. I think it's an app. So I don't think the whole tablet is the device. I think it's just an app that they have on there. I'm not really sure though. It's like a spirit box, or it's like that funky little radio that Nick Groff uses, that looks like an old school boom box or whatever, and it spits out crazy sounding stuff.
Yeah, it's all echoey and weird.
But yeah, it was like that. It sounded like that, and they got a bunch of names, and they got a bunch of female names. But then they randomly asked, like, is a male here? And it replies, Incubus. He wants to have sex.
No.
That's it. That's all it said.
Nope.
Oh, and then followed by a laugh on the Echo Vox. So then they asked, do you like us staying here? And it replied, kill you. Yeah.
That is creepy.
Then it tells them 10 children died here while they were sleeping in their beds. They didn't even ask a question then. It just told them that.
Oh, it's just like, hey, are you guys still here? I got some shit to tell you. Hey, is this therapy time?
It's confession box or something. I mean, it went from pianos playing and like K2 meters going off and just orbs floating around to all of a sudden a super fucking dark place. The Incubus thing, that would have been me being like, all right, Chris, get your shit. We're packing up. We're going to sleep in the car.
We're going.
Done.
I would have been at the door.
Done.
We would have just simultaneously, we're peacing out. Kia, where?
Oh, I hope they have Kia Sorrentos in Sweden. Because
I don't think we could stay on the property with that message.
I mean, you think of the history of the witches being burned there, and then this farmer that was such a fucking asshole that he killed his children, and then people being drawn there just to go and die. It's like, what the fuck is going on here? And some of the stuff, like I said, it's all explained like, oh, this piano is playing, and oh, this rocking chair is moving. Okay, fun little paranormal stuff. And then all of a sudden, hi, I'm an incubus. I want to have sex with you. And
no.
Yeah, just so you know, I want to kill you then, like a praying mantis. And then it talks about like more children dying. And it had given off all these names as well. And I thought when I was first hearing it, because that came before the 10 children thing, I thought these are all the witches that were burned there. It was giving off all these different female names. And then it says at the end, like, other children died there. And I was like, what the fuck is going on?
That place is nuts.
And it went from like 0 to 1,000, just like out of nowhere.
This sounds familiar. And creepy.
Yeah. And they never noted what time it was or anything, but after this session with this echo box, they had done 2 sessions. The first time around, they just got names or whatever. This was the second go around. After that, they were done for the night. They had set up their stuff, and I think that there's a place that you can sleep, like another building that you can go and sleep in, and I think that's what they did, though they didn't say that, so I don't know, but they seem to be done for the night after that.
That's weird. I wonder why.
What scared them off? The guy doing the Echo Box session, I couldn't tell if it was the same Tony guy or if it was his brother. They have their own website and there's stuff in English, so you're able to really get like a sense of who they are. But I couldn't tell which guy it was. But when it said Incubus or whatever, their facial expression didn't change or nothing.
Really?
No.
Wendy, if we're ever at a place and I'm like, yep, that's an incubus, hopefully you're dragging me the fuck out of there, because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about anymore, or we're both on our way out the door as I'm giving you that information. There's no way in hell I'd be able to give you that with a straight face. Am I red here where I've been scratching the whole time? Just thinking about that shit is terrifying me.
If you think about that, we use a spirit box, and it's kind of the same thing. And when we were at Villisca and we were getting responses and something comes across and you're like, that's a devil, but you didn't say it.
Yeah.
In your mind, you're like, that's a devil, but out loud you go, did it say Mary? I mean, or what was it? I mean, so I almost wondered if these guys were they couldn't even process what they were hearing.
You're trying to communicate with something, so you're expecting communication back, not exactly what you heard. So you're going to take that and you're going to reprocess it and reprocess it and reprocess it and be like, it said Mary, right?
Yeah, it must have said Ina, not Incubus. It must have said, I want to play chess with you.
I
want to have sex with you.
I swear to God, if that ever comes through on the spirit box.
It must have said love you, not kill you.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. Now, also, this echo box is all the EVPs and everything, they're coming through in Swedish. So I don't hear it say.
Oh, so we wouldn't even understand it. We'd be like, okay, say that again.
Well, I will tell you, I feel like a lot of the words, yes, I didn't understand any of them, but some of them do not translate. I do not believe that Incubus translated. I believe I heard that with my own ears out of that Echo box or whatever. It say Incubus. I don't think there was a Swedish word for that or whatever. I mean, I think we're all using the same word. But then like the rest of the sentence, I do believe was like, it's Swedish. So if you ever look these guys up and you watch their stuff, like I said, they have subtitles, both groups do, but you're not going to hear necessarily a lot of the EVPs on your own with your own ears and be able to interpret it unless you know Swedish. So
I actually have been looking them up on Instagram while we were talking and following them so that I can look at their stuff afterwards.
Is it all in Swedish too, or do they put it, because some of their stuff on their website was in English, and I was like, how polite. I appreciate it.
It looked like it was in English, but I didn't get too deep into it because I was trying to pay more attention to what you were telling me, and I just wanted to at least start following them so that I could have them for later.
Yeah. The Nordic ghost hunting group was cool. I found them on Facebook. I didn't find a website necessarily for them. It was when I went to Facebook for a little more information. Facebook has that nice little feature of C translation. Because I live in Arizona and there's a lot of people that I work with and whatnot that speak Spanish fluently. They'll write posts in Spanish, and there's an option to change what they wrote in to English or whatever. So you can just click see translation. Cool. So I went on Facebook to look up Frammegarden to see if there was anything that I could hit see translation and learn a little more about it. And but the Nordic people, they had stuff in English and the Laxton group as well, but they had a whole website too. So it was fun to find this place.
Yeah.
And I felt like so fucking cool to find a place in Sweden and actually be able to find enough information that I could understand to tell you a story. And the location itself, the second that it said it was like a burial ground for witches, I was and there's a demon in the basement, I was like, winner.
Yeah. By the way, there's a translation page or site or whatever. It's called Deep L. We call it Deeple at work because I get a lot of emails that are in German or in a different language because I work with a lot of Europeans. So I just copy that shit and throw it into Deep L. And it's actually right on point. So if you get a lot of Spanish stuff, at Deep L is a really good one. I used to use Google Translate, but the Deep L seems to like pick up things a lot quicker.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Google Translate wasn't that great. It had translated it, and I was like, I don't feel confident about this. That's why those two paranormal groups were such a big help, because even Google Translate wasn't even that great. I felt like I was not getting the correct thing. But that's cool to know. So we can do more foreign places or whatever. Because I was like, Chris will never know this story.
I definitely didn't.
I'll definitely be surprising you.
That is an amazing story. I've never heard of it. I absolutely love anything that has to do with the witch trials. And the fact that this is earlier on and it lasted forever. They were still doing that shit up until 1779?
Yeah. I mean, you think of like how things fade out and they're not interesting anymore to the public or whatever. They're like, oh, that was last year's thing. No, these fuckers for 8 years were like, witch. Let's watch some more witch executions. Yay! We're so excited.
In the U.S., they quit that shit after a year, but we're still talking 8 years in Sweden. They were still hard and heavy with it. That's sick, man.
It's sick.
Wow.
Yeah. Super sick. And like I said, it's such an old land.
Yeah.
That, I mean, what's fueling that area is just crazy. I just thought it was crazy. I was like, I don't know how we could ever entertain people from Sweden, because they are definitely got some crazier shit than we do.
I hate it for those two little girls. So you said earlier on in the story you didn't want to repeat their names because it seemed like there might have been some overlap. But what were the names that you had found, just out of curiosity?
Well, I threw my scrap pieces of paper away.
No.
Well, that's the thing. It wasn't in Google that I got their names. It was the Laxton Ghost Sweden people that said it. They gave both their names. And then the first name was the same as the first name to the last owner of the house. And then the last witch that was executed in Sweden, the one that was a badass that was like, yeah, I did that shit. She had the same last name as that girl. And I was like, these just common names in Sweden, or what's going on here? But there were two little girls. I just can't remember the other ones at all. And also they were supposed to be sisters, you know, but they had different last names. So I was like, what? I didn't trust my translation of the information or whatever. And it was too hard to double check. So I didn't put it in there. But if you go to their website, remember, I could be saying their name wrong. It's Laxton, Ghost Sweden. Go to their website. They have their videos on there and they are subtitled on there. Don't go to YouTube because I couldn't find them subtitled on YouTube, but on their website, they are subtitled. They had been on like a popular Sweden show or something, which I started watching that because part of it was translated, but then all of a sudden it cut off. That was on YouTube. Apparently you can go on YouTube and if you know the language, you can offer up your ability to subtitle a show. Yeah, so you can listen to it and you can write in, this is what they're saying. Well, 16 minutes in, the subtitles fucking stopped. So somebody got bored with that shit and was like, never mind. I gotta go to work. I don't have time for this.
That's too bad.
But there's this popular show out there, or there's this popular like duo. It's a husband and wife, and they have like pop culture like show. And they went with this Laxton Ghost Sweden group back to Frammegarden, and they investigated for the night. And I really wanted to watch it because you see their facial expressions, and they were freaking out, but you couldn't understand anything they were saying. And it's a husband and wife group. The wife, I'm not being like weird here, but she was gorgeous. She had this cute little like pink hair, and she had these beautiful full lips. And just watching her like freak out about, and I'm thinking, what's going on? What's going on? I don't know, because I don't know what you're saying.
Oh no.
That husband and wife group were funny too. Like the first 16 minutes, I was like, they were talking about how they brought energy drinks for their thing. And I thought about how we used to load up on energy drinks, and they were so adorable. I was like, I would watch these guys all the time. But you've got to put the subtitles in for me, guys.
We would load up on the energy drinks, and then we were all like health conscious and weight conscious. And we're like, how many calories does this monster beverage have? We would spend hours at Walmart, and we're like, we're supposed to be setting up. Yeah. But we still need to figure out this calorie count. So wait.
But there's also the attack of the energy drinks, like hours later. You're all of a sudden like, what? That's my stomach making that noise. I'm sorry.
Not a ghost, just my belly.
I've had no food. I've just surviving on Monster coffee drinks. And
or when we went to, I can't think of the name of the place. The place, it got hit by a tornado.
Ashmore.
Yes. Ashmore Estate. Thank you so much, Wendy Schultz. And you even made me a delicious broccoli salad before we went investigating. That gave me terrible gas. Not a demon, guys. Sorry. Just my stomach.
But it was gluten-free.
It was totally gluten-free and delicious. Eat that shit all day long.
Just broccoli. Bad decision.
So you guys might already know this. It messes with your stomach, and if you're recording, you're going to get false hits. Just FYI to you guys.
You're going to get growls that come from your stomach, not from the actual location. So that's my story, though, of Frammegarden in Sweden. That was
dark.
So excited to investigate that. I didn't investigate it. What's
wrong
with me? I investigated it from my desk. And
you're a desk archaeologist.
Oh, I love it.
That's me too.
It was a lot of fun, though. It was cool to really learn about a truly new location. Like I'd never heard of it. And it was I felt so fucking fancy.
Now Now, if you could just, like, as we're leaving, as we're signing off, if you could just say goodbye in Swedish, that'd be perfect. Can you do that?
That would. I can't.
Is it good? Is it goodbye? Do they do goodbye or do they say something fancy?
No, they definitely have a goodbye in Swedish. That translates.
Let's see. Hold on, I'm going to Google it.
It's fun to see what words don't translate, though, as they talk, and then they say, they're like talking Swedish, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, Red Bull. You know? They didn't really say that. But there are some words that don't translate for them, so they do that.
Okay. Apparently, goodbye in Swedish is ajo.
Ajo. I can say that.
Yeah, it's ADJO, but the O has a bunch of dots over it.
Yes. So, so that happened. That's why I know I'm not pronouncing any of this stuff right, because there were O's all above letters, and I was like, I don't know what that means. But also, apologies now. When we go to promote our episode on Instagram and Facebook, on our Instagram and Facebook pages, which is COTN_paranormal, you will probably not see O's under the correct letters or anything like that, because I don't think our phones know how to do that. So hopefully I'll be able to copy and paste everything that over so that it translates into all our sites.
Wendy, your story was awesome. I absolutely loved it. And now I want to tour Sweden like never before.
I know. I'm like, man, I bet this place is affordable, like the list do or whatever. Your life in danger with an incubus. So on the loose. Woo! So it's got to be cheap, right?
You say it that way.
You already said it. I'm booking our flights for next year. But yeah,
cool.
Thank you for tuning in. You know that you can always message us for anything that we'll tell you again on the tell you again. We'll tell your story on our podcast. And please message us any opinions, or if you're Swedish and would like to correct my pronunciations, I would appreciate that very much. So I so enjoyed learning about this tiny little piece of your country. So please, please, please share your thoughts, opinions, more stories of other locations. That Laxton group, I know I'm just sounding like I'm obsessed with them now, but they had a bunch of other locations on there as well. And their website's just laid out so nicely that I was like, I want to watch all of these. So yeah, we might end up going to Sweden. I could be obsessed with this from now on.
I guess I got to get my passport, huh?
Yeah, you should definitely get your passport anyway. But anyways, yep. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Ajo, maybe?
Ajo?
If I'm saying it right.
Maybe.
I
Sounds
just
a little
Googled it.
sketchy,
It's supposed to be goodbye, and hopefully so. Peace.
Yeah, ditto. Bye.